the next mayor who can address the poverty in our communities, the crime in our communities, the things that the community is in desperate need of. Listen, because I'm poor, I should not have to live and go to a school where bullets can just be flying anywhere. And there's no plan out there. Good evening. This is Dr. Curry.
This is Coby Owens.
And welcome to The Source. It is a joy, it is a privilege. And first, before we get started, let me say, happy Palm Sunday to all of you who have enjoyed this time of season when Jesus enters into the city of Jerusalem with everybody shouting and screaming and having victory. This was that time of the year. We also want to acknowledge the fact that our co-host, Shanae Darby, is not with us today. Had a little slight emergency, but she'll be back with us next week. And we wish her well and what she's currently doing. Brother Coby, once again, another week has come and we've had another shooting in the city of Wilmington and around the 700 block of East 22nd Street. But what was interesting, there was a young man who was injured, but then a bullet went through a principal's window. I think it was Thomas Edison
Charter
What do you know
School.
about that?
Again, so the 17-year-old, they found him a few blocks away, about a block away from the actual school,
Right.
With a gunshot wound. He was transported to the hospital in stable condition, and as far as now, he is still alive. A stray bullet, there was multiple shots fired, a stray bullet hit the window of Principal L, who is the principal of Thomas Edison Charter School. Again, that could be very scary in itself.
Yes.
Because you do not know where a stray bullet's going to be. But again, I'm glad no one was hurt inside the school, but that is way too close to a school for these ongoing shootings to be happening. And we know that is a more high crime area there. But again, there has to be a plan. There has been steps taken, I think, under this new police chief that was not taken before. And it's going to take some time. But again, we need to start seeing a more impactful action take place.
One of the things we're going to talk about a little bit is the new mayor for the city of Philadelphia.
Yes.
And when you just made your last comment, it kind of made me push to the next thing because I want to use this as a good example. The only way the mayor, and even though the chief of police is out there somewhat, officials could really feel the depth of violence and filthiness and things of that nature that happens in communities is that they got to get out there. And for those of you who may not know, Philadelphia has a new mayor. I happen to be very good friends with her, Sherelle Parker. And she did what I call, it's not labeled this by them, but I called it the Mercy on the Ground tour, where she went through the city, the troubled areas. She made some promises in her campaign that she was going to make sure happen as the mayor for the city of Philadelphia. And she, for the last week, just went to all of those communities and a whole lot of stuff came out of it. Now, what really got me was she was at where my old high school is. She went and they said they haven't seen a street cleaner in that area almost 15, 20 years.
I think she's doing a good job. Again, she is up against a very tough city and environment, right? One that has had record numbers over the last few years. I think she has currently she has a better relationship with the city council than the previous mayor in the iteration of city council. They really didn't work well together. And I think that goes a long way. It shows that when you have two arms of government working together to get the legislation and the funding done and getting it actually implemented, you can get things done. And she's leading from the ground, right?
Yeah.
We have never seen Mayor Pizicki come out. Well, no, one time when there was a shooting over on 35th Street, 500 block 35th Street, a young teen was killed right down the street from PS. He came and had a town hall and and what he talked about was downtown development, while the mom of the young boy was standing right there, and she said, well, what about the gun violence that just killed my son? And he pointed to her, told her to shush, and that we're not here to talk about that.
Wow.
We don't
I
live
remember
downtown.
you reporting on that.
We don't live downtown.
Yeah.
We don't care about that. We care about the gun violence in our community. So if you don't have someone who has the spine and the courage enough to go into the communities where the gun violence is, talk to the people who live there, see what's really going on, not just listening to these college-educated folks that don't look like me and you, who can read data.
Some do look like us.
Some of them do,
Yeah.
but who can read data.
Yeah.
Data can tell you anything.
Yeah. Absolutely. And
data could be a whole different story, but yet they don't want to come and talk to the people who are on the streets.
But even where she is now, what I like about it, remember, one of the things I've learned, and for those of you who are watching, pay attention to the dynamics of this conversation. It's important that you elect people who have like interests. Okay, and I want to say that slowly because that becomes important. Don't elect people who can promise you the world, but look at their track record and elect people who are on the grounds. If you really have a problem with the crime in the city, if you really have a problem with poverty in the city, look at their track record of what they've been doing. She went into North Philadelphia, Strawberry Mansion section of the city and cleaned, and what they did was she was on the ground with them. She was talking to the residents. She was asking them, and she did something that was unpopular. All city employees who were working from home, it's time to report back to the office. How are you able to give the city services that you really need to give if you are sitting at home? And some people are really not at home. Now, that's not unpopular here in Wilmington. But she also did something. She hired a 24-year-old young lady who was on her way to law school, who is there to represent the Latino community. And she decided, you know what, the Latinos were underrepresented. They didn't, I need somebody in my ear telling me the needs of the Latino community. So she hired this young lady, and this young lady was in awe that she did do it, but there were critics, and her response is what I love. It doesn't matter what they got to say. I want to make sure my administration can hear on the grounds what is needed in every community. So that was another thing she did. She hired her new cabinet. She got some people who were there before, but for the most part are people who understand the needs of community. Y'all said last week on this show that there's that about the translator and the person who represents that area. Talk about put them in a what do you call it? Put them in a room.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame. We have people who, again, they get elected to these positions and forget where they come from. And then they only care about their own special interests or the ones who are funding their campaigns.
And that's why whoever fund you, run you. And that's where that theory came from. And then the last thing that she did that I thought was very, very good and very, in my opinion, and that is that her chief of police and she had put a task on themselves that we know that crime is a problem in the city of Philadelphia. And she said one of the things about her going throughout the city is to hear more so that her chief of police and her will come up with a plan that to address. And it will not be easy, she said.
Right.
There will be more murders. There will be more shootings, but it will not be easy. We will have a plan and we're going to work our plan. Right. Come on, what more can you ask?
I know. And again, it starts with having that true leadership to bring people together, not with the fear of, hey, I'm not going to support your re-election campaign. I'm going to pit someone up against you. I'm not going to pit projects back in your district, because that's not a plan to unite the city, right? You have to have a plan to have one city, right? A united city. And if you can do that through true leadership, which Mike Pizicki lacks, then you can get a lot of things done that is beneficial other than just building buildings.
And I'm going to say this may be a little controversial, but it's going to be very interesting. And Coby, I'm not asking you to take any position. I'm not taking any position at this point, but it's going to be very interesting to see. To my understanding, the governor is running for mayor here in the city of Wilmington. Velda Potter is running for mayor here in the city. It's going to be interesting to see the dynamics of that, because it's important to know both of them one person have a track record with the state, things that they've done. But when it comes down to addressing certain things, I'm going to be very particular, and we're going to really look at those things. Another person has a track record too of being able to manage and do the things that she needs to do. We need to make sure, as we are talking about on our show months to come, that we are careful to appoint or elect the next mayor who can address the poverty in our communities, the crime in our communities, the things that the community is in desperate need of. Listen, because I'm poor, I should not have to live and go to a school where bullets can just be flying anywhere. And there's no plan out there. Where is the plan? We probably should be talking to Velda as well as to the governor, saying, what is your plan on this? And let's dissect the plan. If you don't have a plan, that means you're going to go on popularity.
Right.
And that has been the problem with some of these elections. This is just unacceptable. And I bring up, for those of you who watch it, I bring up Sherelle Parker, not because she's this god, but because she's doing it right. She's getting out there, and it's not about how big her budget is. She's out there, she's hearing, she's trying to respond, and she's honest. She said, it's not going to be easy.
Right.
It's not going to be easy, but hiding stuff, coveting stuff is not the ticket that we need in order to be successful as a city. Anything else on that, sir?
That's all I have on that.
Well,
I think she's doing a good job to start, but it could continue to follow through. And I think, again, as of right now, she has that working relationship with the council to get things done. So moving in a very fast pace to get it done.
They gave her a standing ovation when she went back to do her budget address.
Really?
They did. They all stood up and clapping. And I've not seen that in the city of Philadelphia since I don't even think Wilson Good got that. But I have not seen that in the city where the city council, when she gets it, they introduced her and the whole chamber stood up. I was very shocked. And she had some tough stuff in her budget. But if you pay attention to her budget, she understands that the city of Philadelphia, major parts of it is the inner city. It's the city. So her budget reflects that, not just one segment of the city. Right. And I think we need to pay attention to that. And no one is against development. I am for development. I think that we need to have the tax dollars coming in to be in the revenue. We should be able to attract different conferences and things of that nature, but we cannot do it while hiding the hurt, the pain, the misery that is going on in so many of our communities. And city council, I think at some point you're going to have to make a decision, because I think that's what we're going to have to do. One of the things we give Trump credit for is that he get his people to get people out of office. Yeah. I don't know why y'all special interest folks don't do that on the Democratic side.
So there is special interest people on the Democratic side. There's some good, there's some bad. There's some developers, there's some everyday people. So again, you have to deal with that. There are certain members who on this city council who won't do anything unless Bud Friel says to do this, to jump. Unless Bacini Paulin does something. And then they want to go and talk about, oh, well, they're hosting me a birthday party. They're hosting a fundraiser for me. And they owe me because of how many privileges I allowed them to do and how many pieces of legislation I put in on their behalf. And they say this very out and open in the public. I think it's a slap in the face to the people. I really do.
I don't know.
And they have to go.
Yeah, well, they do, but I think there needs to be a special campaign to get them out. Because in order for the city of Wilmington to survive, it has to be able to survive with people who care about the city, not people who have a special interest so they can become richer and richer and richer. It has to be a point where at some point everybody gets a piece of the pie. We're going to take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back.
Greetings, I'm Representative Sherry Dorsey Walker of the 3rd District, and I am running for Lieutenant Governor for the state of Delaware. I have previously served on the Wilmington City Council. I served on the Board of Parole, and I am in my 6th year, my 3rd term as a state representative, and I am seeking your vote on September 10th, 2024, to be your next Lieutenant Governor. I believe I am uniquely qualified for this position. Please consider voting for me on September 10th, 2024. You can also become involved with the campaign by going to my website, www.sherry, spelled SHERRY, Dorsey, DORSEY, Walker, WALKER, that's SherryDorseyWalker.com, and you're welcome to make a contribution. Sign up to volunteer, host a party, join us for parades. But please consider voting for me on September 10th, 2024, to be your next Lieutenant Governor. May God bless you and continue to be a shining light in your life.
And we're back. As you can see, Shanae is not with us, and we usually have our Shanae Scoop, but she did share some things she wanted us to make sure that we cover, like a good teacher when they're out of school, they're not there that day, they leave a lesson plan for the substitute teacher to do. And one of the things she wanted to encourage everyone was to please make sure you're out there for the budget hearings. It starts on the 27th at 4:30, and she's encouraging you to be there for the virtual or in person. It's probably important to be in person because you get a chance to feel and see what exactly is going on. And that's this coming Wednesday, the 27th at 4:30 at the City County building. Is that correct?
Yes, and this is the mayor's office and city council office. They're doing theirs first.
Okay.
And some things I just want to highlight with their budget and everything. Mm-hmm. City council gets discretionary funds, and those funds are supposed to go to help community groups. They're supposed to go to help small businesses in the area. That's what those discretionary funds are for, and for scholarships for young kids. Mm-hmm. If you look at what they've been using this money for over the last 2 years, they've been using the money to buy tickets to events, right?
Oh, wow.
For themselves to go, right? And they call it, we're sponsoring things, but they're using these tickets for their own self-interest and for political reasons. They're not really giving back to the community. So again, please pay attention to what is going on city council, what is going on in the mayor's office as well too, and make sure you hold them accountable. I'm not saying all council members, because some council members have donated to organizations that are in their district or citywide to help them, especially as we're still building out of the pandemic. But there are some individuals who just use it for tickets for themselves, and that's just unacceptable. Absolutely. That's not what our taxpayer dollars are for. They get paid already, and they can use the money out their own pocket.
Yeah. Now, do you know how much money each city council person get?
So it varies each year. Usually it was $10,000 of discretionary funds. They got $100,000 of ARPA funds that they have to use by the end of this term. And if they don't use it, then it goes back to the federal government. But of course, they all waited. A lot of them waited to start using those funds until 2024, because 2024 is an election year. Please do not be fooled. They would rather people suffer for 3 years and wait until it's election time to actually help them gradually over the year. So again, that's just what we're dealing with right now. I keep it 100% honest, but again, that's what's going on, and people are sick and tired of games. And I'm talking about it right now, but people are bringing this up all over. People are so sick and tired of this city council.
Yeah, wow. Well, but I hope it translates into their votes. Mm-hmm. That's what I was talking about earlier. That not just be sick and tired of them and keep letting them get elected in, and then I can hear some who are in special districts can say, well, my constituents are fine with me spending their dollars on me having tickets and making sure I'm up against the right people. That's really crazy. Right. That's crazy. But with that the whole city council got an extra $100,000, not each individual.
No, each individual.
Really?
Yes.
Oh.
So they could have used that money to really help people They could have used it for capital funds. Some members did do that, and I applaud them. But other members have sat on that money and now are just starting to go out and talk to civic associations and about the money that they can give out now that it's campaign time.
And is that like the state has an open checkbook? You can see where every dollar went. Does the city have an open checkbook too?
The city does. They buried it on their website. It takes maybe about 9 clicks to get to it, which is atrocious. But it is on a website. Again, it's a very non-transparent and open process to figure out where they are. It's a PDF that they upload. They only update it every now and then. So you have to just keep an eye on it. It's no set, hey, we're going to update it every month, every quarter, or whatsoever.
Yeah, like the state kind of do.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll be watching for that. Now, another thing that Shanae was talking about last week and is that's the translation services. And I think that's important because, everybody doesn't speak English, so to have a translator, she felt that the city needs to have one when we're having different committee meetings and things like that. So every citizen in the city would be able to be well informed.
Yeah, I'm happy that they're finally listening to the community who's been talking about this for a while. We were able to work with the Georgetown City Council to get this down in Georgetown already. But now people, again, are just getting on to it. Sometimes we love to be first to be last. But again, the translation services would not only help those who speak different languages. So we have a huge population that speaks it's some form of the Hispanic language or Haitian Creole as well too. We also have individuals who are hearing impaired. So a part of those translation services, and I've talked to them about this, and I don't think it's going to be involved with it, but they need to have ADA accessibility, right? So they should have an interpreter at every council meeting and committee meeting as well too, to help individuals who are hearing impaired.
And I can hear people, especially from some of the city council members saying, see, what their problem is, especially on that source, is that they want us to do all these services and we ain't have any money. Well, another thing that Shanae is trying to push, and I agree with, is a grant writer.
Well, even before you get to a grant writer, they have the money if they stop buying all these tickets.
I'm trying to be nice.
If they stop buying all
trying
these
to be
tickets,
nice.
You can pay an interpreter per meeting. An interpreter may be $150. $150, maybe $200. Some of these tickets that they're buying are $175, and then they don't even show up to events.
Yeah, I know that. I've seen
so again,
tables.
they're just wasting our money.
Yeah.
So again, instead of doing tickets, I think that's a better service for the city of Wilmington. Yeah. But yes, the grant writer is key. And I've talked about this, also the lobbyists as well too. Other cities and municipalities have grant writers. They have individuals who work with the federal delegation to get federal grants and go after other money that is available for municipalities, whether it's foundations or whatsoever. We do not have that.
And that's kind of a response to those who are saying our budget is this big. Your budget could be much larger if we have a person whose specialty is to go out and find the dollars and bring them home.
But this council has the power to do that. But instead, they want to raise your water rates and do it in secret because they voted a year or 2 years ago to automatically raise it by 5% over the next 5 years. When does that 5-year clock time out? After the election. So they technically, we didn't vote to raise the taxes in an election year, but you already did 2 years ago. So again, they like playing these little games. And again, they get mad when people call this stuff out. And then they say, I didn't know. Well, if you are so incompetent to not understand your role on council and what you're voting on, you need to sit down, type a letter that says, I resign this position.
I need my little... how much they get? 40
almost.
40, 30, 80,
maybe
or
30.
Whatever it is, they need that pension check or that check.
And again, they're half-time work. They get full-time benefits. They get health benefits. They have no attendance record, right? They could show up to one meeting a year and still get paid no matter what. It's the best part-time job ever. To be honest, they don't technically have to respond to any emails, to any phone calls. And there's a lot that do until it's election time. So again, I know they did a study about getting paid more and making a full-time pay and everything. I would not be in favor of that. And I know it would change it for down the road, but I would not be in favor of that because the people who would take advantage of that right now, they're already taking advantage of how much money they're getting from the taxpayers, and they're not doing the quality service that they should be doing.
Yeah, not where there's no accountability is open for fraud. And what is happening is there are people who are just doing what they want to do and saying what they want to say. And then which really gives us the last piece that she was talking about, and that's the lobbyists. the special interest that the city council has is really overlooked. 90% of what we do in changing any policies has to be done down in Dover. Not to have someone down there is a little ludicrous, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, I meet on a regular with the lobbyists from Newark, from Dover, Georgetown, all these other municipalities. The League of Local Governments has a lobbyist team, and we're not involved with any of that. It's sad. We have members who are part of the League of Local Governments. They go to the conferences, which I'm pretty sure comes out of taxpayer dollars, right? They post about it online all the time. Look who we got to see. Oh, we got invited to this party. But this is the second part. You're supposed to bring those resources back to the city, right? And you're supposed to work with the local, the state branch, right? To get things done down in Dover that you can't just get done in your own municipality. Absolutely. And other individuals do this. Why do I know this? Because I've helped get elected a lot of people on a municipal level up and down this state, whether it's Georgetown, Smyrna, MOT area. They all do this, and they all take advantage of their services, and they say they have not seen a single city council person at any of those meetings in years.
Wow.
They don't even bring what they're doing on the city to those meetings. They talk about our city council members as just partiers when they go to these conferences. Partiers.
Oh wow, that's a strong accusation.
I mean, we have one council member who couldn't even show up for a strong vote, an important vote when it comes to residency because they were too busy at a conference. I will say I'll give it to Council Member Harley and Council Member Oliver, who was also scheduled to go to that conference as well too. But not only did they delay it, they showed up to that meeting. They stayed, and it was a long meeting. Now it was like 3-4 hours almost. They stayed to the very end of that meeting, well, until the end of that vote, and then said, "Mr. President, can I be excused?" After they took that vote, after they did the business of the city in which they were elected to. So again, I give those two hats off for that. And then they went on.
Wow, which is really the way it's supposed to be done.
Yeah.
So we're complimenting people for doing their job, but then you got the one or two who just decided, you know what, I got other things to do, and let those the mob do what the mob needs to do. People,
absolutely.
And when you are secured in a district where the people really are full of apathy, you can do those type of things. But it's a shame how we attack each other in some of the other districts. But I'm going to watch very carefully what happens during the election. I've not seen too many challengers. Is there any challenges going on?
There will be. People aren't happy with the current system.
Okay.
But they also know how the games are played and how people get attacked, and they're not in favor of that. So a lot of people are actually waiting to announce until later on in the cycle because of the attacks that they're anticipating.
Now, there is, I sent in a request to know whether or not an employee of the city of Wilmington can run for a city elected position. According to the code, and you may have to help me, according to the code or the regulation in the employee handbook, yes, they can run. If they are elected, they have to remove themselves from the position.
From one of the positions, yes.
Okay, so from what again?
One of the positions.
Oh, they can't serve in two roles.
Correct.
Okay, I understand that. So I want to make sure for those of you who are watching, and especially some of you who are very strong fighters, and you see the corruption, you see the dirt, you see the things that is happening and the lack of interest for public. You won't lose your position if you run up against some of these people and then lose. You wouldn't lose. You just go back to your job. I think that is worth, and I want to bring that up today in our conversation because I really want to see more people running. We need to see, and some of you are frustrated with what's going on in the, whether it be the city council, whether it be the administration. You got to show that you are willing to take a chance. Get out there. And you got to get the people to back you, and you can run. And look, you could probably win. Now I know it is sometimes scary, because when you're thinking about a person making $70,000, $80,000, and yet this position is a part-time $40,000 job, quite natural person's like, well, I'm not going to mess up my bread and butter. But there are people, and the other folks do it all the time, who will hire you other places while in those positions. So I think you really need to just put some ducks in order. And there are some great people I'm thinking about right in my head, I'm not gonna say any names, who would really serve the city of Wilmington really well. But you're trapped in a position and you didn't know what the policy was. I think you can verify it yourself. The policy is clear. You can run, and you do not have to give up your position while you're running. After you are elected and sworn in, I guess that's what it is. That's when you're officially in the position. Then you would have to resign from your position. And I would hope that, whether it be Mayor Carney or Mayor Velda, that they would be strong enough to let you come back after it's all over. Because at the end of the day, I think that we need more people who understand and see the corruption running to correct what has been made wrong. What's your opinion on that?
I agree with you. And again, at the end of the day, if you are working somewhere in the city, let's say public works and stuff, you have a union that will also help protect you.
Oh, okay.
So depending if you are in a union or not, I think the rest of the workers kind of fall under Ask Me somewhere, some way, some form. So again, talk to your union rep, talk to them about that process as well too. But again, we need more people to run, and people who understand the city and the struggles that are truly going on in this city, not just people who have some extra money laying around and can throw that into a race.
Yeah, I think that's good. All right, well, we're gonna take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back.
I am Tony Prado, Communications Specialist for the Blood Bank of Delmarva. We are charged with keeping all 19 hospitals in the Delmarva Peninsula stocked with the blood products they need for various hospital patients. The only way we can help those folks is by convincing people to donate blood. It's something that we cannot produce synthetically in the lab. We need people to donate their time and their blood in order to make that happen, whether you're giving whole blood, double red cells, or platelets. And we'll take those products, we'll test them, make sure that they're safe, and then distribute those to the hospitals as needed, including in hospital emergencies, trauma events that occur in the flash of a minute. And we ask you to help us. Go to delmarvablood.org or call 1-888-8-BLOOD-8 to schedule your appointment. We're celebrating National Blood Donor Month to raise awareness. And as I said previously, we are asking people to donate once per season, whole blood, or you can do double red cells twice a year, or you can do platelets every 2 weeks. Whatever fits your schedule, it's a great way to get back to your community. Sit back and relax and donate some blood. And if you're like me, you don't have time to coach Little League or volunteer at the soup kitchen, donating blood is a legitimate way to give back to your community. You're gonna be saving lives and you're gonna feel good about it. I promise you. Thank you for your time.
And we're back. Well, Coby, what's going on with Coby's Corner this week?
Yeah, so it's been a busy week down in the General Assembly, and I love talking about what's going on the state level. But one, I want to talk about a bill that has now come back up. This has been an ongoing fight since 1983, 84.
Before you were born.
Way before I was born. But it's to eliminate the death penalty here in Delaware. It's been ruled unconstitutional before, then the General Assembly came back, changed it to make it constitutional, then it's been ruled unconstitutional again over the years, off and on. But Representative Sean Lynn, he's a lawyer. He represents the Dover area. He has been on the forefront of this fight since he's been down in Leg Hall, has put forth two bills. Mm-hmm. So one is HB 70, which is a act to eliminate the death penalty in Delaware. As such, the penalty for a person who is convicted of first-degree murder for an offense that was committed after the person's 18th birthday is in prison for the remainder of their natural life without the benefits of probation or parole or any other reduction, right? That's the alternative, and that's what that bill would do. It completely removes it here. At one point in time back in the 80s, if you were convicted of first-degree murder, it was a mandatory death sentence, right?
Yeah.
So again, we have had off and on over the years, and I think you have to have a moral standing here, right? And I know it was voted out of committee. I'm happy. I know there's some individuals down there who are not going to vote for it on the floor because it does not provide a provision for public safety individuals. Last time this bill came forth, there was an amendment to put on that if you kill an officer or a firefighter, a nurse, an EMT, then you get the death penalty. Well, then other people said, well, why is it special for them and not other people? So people, again, can be childish sometimes, and there was amendments that came forward that said, well, if you kill a teacher, you also get the death penalty. If you kill a construction worker, you also get a death penalty. So again, I think at the end of the day, you do not fix death with more death. You do not fix murder with more murder. And we have seen with the amazing advances that we've had in forensic science, and this is coming from someone who studied forensic science, both bio and chemistry, who thought they were going to become a forensic scientist. We have had amazing advances, especially in the last 10 years alone. And we are still finding out in some of these cases, just within the last 10 years, that information was wrong and people were innocent. And they're pitting innocent people to death. And one thing you cannot overturn is killing someone. Yeah. You cannot bring that person
I have
back.
a personal testimony to that, and I just want to make sure I share it with those of you who are watching us today. My brother in 1990 was killed by a person who shot him while he was picking up his daughter. And shot and killed him. And they got all the proof, the cameras and everything. And the questions that were asked to our family is, should we go after the death penalty? And I said, no. I said, no, we don't need to go after the death penalty. We know who did it. He knows he did it. Now let him rot in jail. Let him stay there every day thinking about what he did. You may say, well, that's not strong enough. That's not hard enough. He took your brother. Well, part of my faith causes me to believe like I believe too. But I just never supported the death penalty. I think when you kill a person, I know the other people got different thoughts, you just take away all the guilt, the shame, and everything else. You let them rot in jail without the option of parole. When you have as much facts as we had, he would have certainly gotten the death penalty, but I would not let my family sign off on, because I just thought it was just not something we needed to do. We needed to send the message that for the rest of your life, and he's in jail right now. And for the rest of his life, he'll sit there thinking about that one incident that happened. And that sometimes is more painful than that 2 seconds before they have killed the person. So I just wanted to share that with those of you who are watching us today.
And the second bill, which also has to do with the death penalty, which is HB 301, is a constitutional amendment. And what this would do is it removes fully that excessive bail. Well, what it does, it adds excessive bail shall not be required, excessive fees will not be imposed, nor the death penalty be imposed to the state code into our state constitution. So again, that it just codifies the bill, the other bill 280 or 70, 301 codifies it into our constitution, so we don't ever have to come back and do this again, hopefully, and that it could be constitutional as well too, that the death penalty is no longer an option here in Delaware. So both of those got out of committee earlier this week, and I look forward to seeing them on the floor to be debated and hopefully voted passed through in a timely manner as well too. Next, I want to talk about the hydrogen hub. There are ongoing meetings going on. There has been individuals who have been protesting it and other individuals who've been very supportive of it. But again, no concrete plan has been put in place just yet. But again, this back in October, President Biden in Philly announced that almost $8 billion of federal money will be coming to this project and 2 hydrogen hubs. And this will help fund the one that's going to be right here in our backyard within the tri-state area. So it's going to impact South Jersey, Philadelphia, and the Newcastle.
So what is the
County
hydrogen hub for the person who's watching? Like,
Yeah.
what is that?
So it's the hydrogen hub, what it will do is create green energy.
Okay.
Here, green sustaining energy for the North, like Mid-Atlantic area, right? They've been working with the community. 7 of these projects are going to be funded throughout the nation. Ours is about $1 billion here, coming to this area as well too. The goal is to create clean energy, generate clean energy, and lower our carbon emissions and greenhouse gas to zero, to reduce and revitalize the existing pipeline infrastructure, right? And then also create over 20,000 jobs as well too, for the area. We hope that most of them are from Delaware, but of course we have to have the workforce prepared for it. So people are getting individuals trained up to do that. Is the hub going to be in Delaware or outside in like the Delaware County? It's going to be by the bridge, by the Bay Bridge. Okay. I don't know what side it's going to be on just yet. Okay. But again, they're looking to bring workforce from all 3 of those areas. And again, that's actually being led by a candidate for governor, Colin O'Mare. So again, that's just where we're at with that. Right now, they're in the job training portion of it to build towards that, as well as the infrastructure development plan, planning session with community engagement. So again, we will see where this goes, but it has potential to be a very, very good benefit for this area. They're in the first, so it was announced in October. They have about a year and a half of planning to do, and then they will roll out the next phases. Got it. Good. Next, I want to talk about the Homeless Bill of Rights. This is a bill that I've been a part of the fight for this since I was in high school. And I don't want to jinx it, but it's actually feeling really good of finally getting out of committee. We've started it in the Senate. We've started it in the House. Representative Stephanie Bolden's been a prime sponsor before in the past. State Senator Margaret Rose Henry has been a prime sponsor in the past. Senator Karen Peterson has been a sponsor in the past. And now we're here to where Sean Lynn was the sponsor of the bill. He's handed that over to freshman Representative Sophie Phillips, who has been doing a great job of addressing the needs of constituents and stakeholders to get this to a bill that we can all agree on and get it across, at least getting out of committee, which it has never done in the 14 years we've been working on this. But the Homeless Bill of Rights is a Bill of Rights for individuals experiencing homelessness. It does not create a new subset of rights, but just ensures that all individuals, regardless of your housing status, have an equal opportunity to live a decent, safe, healthy, and have helpful accommodations to enjoy equal opportunities, right? So this builds on to something that I call a legacy bill of Herman Holloway Sr., which was his public accountabilities bill that he passed that allowed African Americans to be able to go into libraries, hospitals, and stuff like that, schools, as well too, without discrimination.
So that means they won't be asking you where you live at. Because if you don't have a house or address, and you're applying for a job, then you still have a right to be interviewed if you have the criteria that they're looking for. Okay.
This also, the bill sets forth that individuals experience homelessness and creates a process by which the State Human and Civil Rights Commission and Division of Health and Human Relations may accept and investigate complaints of discriminatory treatment, attempt of coercion or refer enforcement of actions for the Department of Justice if that is necessary as well too. Again, this is to use and move freely in public spaces. That means public sidewalks, parks, public transportation, public buildings, and individuals cannot be discriminated with because of their housing status as well too. And again, so this is going to be huge. If it does pass, it's going to be very important for our community to be educated on this as well too, so that they know what is going on in our community. So again, that's just where I wanted to bring that to the forefront. Next Wednesday at 11 a.m. is the committee hearing. We're asking for people to please come out, especially people who live in South Bridge, in the Route 9 corridor area, faith leaders as well too, who support this bill, to come out and speak on it, so that we make sure we have all the votes on that committee to get it through as well too.
And the people coming out is just going to encourage those who need to vote in favor of it. And sometimes presence is very important. That's why I guess I understand. All right.
Next, I want to give a quick update on reparations. So next week will be the final meeting after a year and a half of meeting, even though they only originally gave us 6 months to meet, of research and everything. Honestly, we could have had a lot more time to do the research, a lot more time to actually dive into things, but this was the time limit council gave us, and they did not want to extend it anymore. We will be voting on the recommendations that we set forth. We'll be going through our different pain points. So again, acknowledging one, that hey, we identified different pain points: health, education, housing, public safety, all these different pain points, and here's our recommendation on how you can start addressing them. One of my recommendations have made it into the final draft, which is the creation of the Wilmington Reparations Housing Fund. It's almost modeled after the Evanston Reparations Housing Fund. Again, this will help African Americans who live in the city of Wilmington with down payment for new houses, for home ownership, for rental assistance, security deposit, mortgage assistance, utility assistance, as well as repair grants. All this is in a grant form. This is not is not supposed to be any money has to be paid back. This is for us to upgrade our housing stock that we currently have, or be able to get into new housing, because home ownership creates that generational wealth, right? So and start preparing. We know a lot of the negative impacts is that down payment is what we cannot help with, right? We struggle with that. We are already paying more in rent per month than we would a mortgage. We just don't have the money for that down payment. So again, this will help with that aspect of it as well too. So again, as we go through that, we'll make the final recommendation vote, and then once we make that vote, it goes to council, and I hope council will have the courage to go ahead and pass this and get this stuff done. The funding mechanism for at least my portion would be taking 50% of the vacant property fees for the next 30 years and putting it in the fund, while also welcoming both federal, state, county, and private money into this fund as well too, to help it going forward as well. So again, I'm extremely excited to finally get to the recommendation portion of it. But again, we will see where it goes at the end of the day as well too. So that is where we're at with that. Next is I want to talk about a police shooting that happened here in Delaware maybe about a few months ago. A Newcastle County officer shot a 22-year-old, and this individual, this took place at the 7-Eleven in Ellesmere. Actually about a year ago, back in March 23. It has been released that the Department of Justice, Civil Rights, and Public Trust on Wednesday concluded that the officer, Corey Nolson, shot Edelman and his friend at a Poden in defense of himself and other officers. Again, If you watch the video, they pulled up and within 19 seconds, they shot and killed this young 22-year-old.
Did you expect the Department of Justice in Delaware to do anything differently?
No, no.
Okay.
They have constantly done this time and time again. Yeah. And, you know, one of the sad things about this was 19 seconds before that officer was firing shots, the officer pulled up on this young man. The young man tried to pull away in an unmarked police car with no lights on. They knew what they were doing. They were trying to do a shock and awe, and it led to him trying to get away because he didn't know who was pulling up on him. This is what we keep saying is wrong with the system. If someone just pulls up erratically on me, coming towards me, what are you going to try to do? You're going to try to get away no matter what's going on. So again, for them to then jump out the car because he was moving and fire those shots at him, I think it was an abuse of power, but I'm not shocked by the DOJ whatsoever. You can't have an entity that is supposed to protect the cops also try to hold them accountable as well.
Now, did they say that he was shooting at them?
No.
Did they say that they had weapons in the car?
They said that I believe they said that they found something in the back seat of the car, but it was not in arm's reach. And again, Edelman, who was the officer the officer Nicholson who fired at Edelman, the young man who ended up dying, was riding passenger in an unmarked car, carrying officers who had been arranged to meet up with Edelman.
Yeah, and I bring that only up because I know some people want to emphasize the gun that may have been in the back seat as opposed to 19 seconds. You got to count it out to see how fast this is. And also the unmarked car, not knowing who's stopping you. It's just so much.
Right. And I in the report in which they found that he was justified in killing this young man, it stated that the plan was to use the unmarked car to make the arrest and a marked car to pin the Edelman in. And this is called the pinch maneuver, right? It was a planned operation. Well, the marked car had not arrived when the unmarked car pulled up. So they messed up. It is stated in this report that the marked car had not arrived, which left the gap for him to try to move the car. So they knew he was potentially going to run. And they did this anyway and executed this young man. Executed him. And then they get to walk away scot-free.
Sad.
Scot-free.
It's just sad.
So again, to Representative Melissa Minor Brown, who swears they did something with her policing bill last go round, this is what we're still talking about. And your bill did nothing to address this. So again, I feel extremely sorry for his family. But the blood of this young man is on the hands of every individual who chose to go ahead and pass this piece of legislation that did nothing to actually hold officers accountable so that they could get a public win and stop having to hear people complain about them not doing anything for 3 years on policing reform.
Yeah, it's just a sad how we prey on the poor and those who don't have representation to the level that we do. I don't know what else to say. I'm just going to be very careful, but sometimes we are guilty of things and other times we're not. And you know, we're watching the violence and the force that is put on the poor communities that is not done that same way in those affluent communities. And you may say, well, they don't have the same level of crime. You know, when you treat people as animals, they act as animals. You cannot treat people bad and expect them to do right. And I'm not going to go on saying that I'm definitely not saying they act like animals, but I just want to make sure when you start giving that argument that, you know, in other communities, they don't react to police officers the same way. But, you know, I found out, Coby, that sometimes they do. But because they're in that other community and they know they're going to be held accountable and there may be lawyers and things of that nature they may have, they tend to think before they react. 19 seconds, I'm going to keep that in my head. Because 19 seconds, it may be long for some people, but that's kind of quick to make a judgment, to evaluate and assess the whole situation. And for people to feel that's fine, what do you expect DOJ to do? It is what it is. Well, Coby, anything else you have on your plate today?
That's all I have today.
Well, what I want to do is I want to end this show by just recapitulating what I said last week, because I received several calls, shockingly. I did not know that people did not know that the 107th, and is that the right council? The 107th council had done what they did as it relates to depowering the seat of the president of city council. See, this is how it works. Whenever there's a new election, whoever is the sitting president of city council sets the agenda. When I go wrong, correct me. That person sets the agenda, and what'll happen a lot of times, for years, nobody bothered the seat of the president of city council, but out of anger, out of rebellion, out of frustration, the city council president, who happens to be Hanifa Shabazz at that time, decided with a few other cronies, this is how we're going to make sure there's no power in the new person who had won the seat. So they put all these rules in. And when the rules were put in, it was voted on. They had their 7.
Yes.
That's all you need is your 7. And once the 7 voted, nothing can happen. So for those of you, and I'm not saying I'm Mr. Trippy, I'm Trippy's cheerleader, because that's not me. But for those of you saying he's not doing anything or he has no power, it was taken from him. And then when you hear Sinead Darby come on and she's upset and frustrated because certain things is happening, when you make strategic moves the way the 107th Council did, you end up with the results that we're having today. I suggest at the end of this, whoever wins, and says it'll be in his hands to set the agenda. It's not in his hand to change anything unless he gets the 7 votes.
Right. Well, 9 to change the rules.
Oh, well, 9. Thank you. Thanks for correcting me. So I suggest, that's interesting how she was able to get 9 votes to change them.
So 7 at the beginning.
Oh, and right, if you want to change,
then if you want to change it after the session starts, you need 9 votes.
Okay. So what happens with the agenda for the next rules?
So the president does not set the agenda for the next.
Yeah, because how they did this one.
Right. So again, what happened was there was 2 sets of rules, 2 sets of council staff, and 2 sets of who's going to be the president pro tempore. So Trippy, the usual way of business is the current president selects who's going to be the pro temp, and then it's in their power to select who's going to be on what committees, as well as they work with the council for the rules, and then it was in the power of the council president to set the agenda and to hire staff. Well, they taken all that away. So the whole council has to hire staff. It's not just the person gets to appoint someone and then the council votes on it. They have to all agree in a committee first, then hire someone. The rules was a whole different sets of rules was introduced by Councilman Chris Johnson that was put on an agenda by Hanifa. And then also the pro temp, Council President Congo has selected Michelle Harley, who was going into her 5th year.
Right.
Councilmember Johnson selected Maria Cabrera, who was also coming back to council, but this would have been her 5th year at the time as well too, even though she was gone for 4 years. So again, that is what happened with that situation, and because of individuals getting to set the order of the agenda, things got moved around. And Johnson's stuff got voted on first, which invalidates the other stuff.
See the politics? I hope you all are paying attention, because I'm not easily moved. People threaten to sue me. They threaten this. I'm going to keep a clear head, and I'm going to be a clear voice so that people will know the dirtiness of some individuals who play the Mother Teresa. And this is just not fair. So those of you who called me this week, thank you so much for asking, coming directly to the source. And yes, it was the 107th Council And yes, the names I named were the names that were involved, and we got even more clarity when Coby was sharing certain things to make sure that there's true clarity. But it's just unfair. We can't play these games. I mean, we had a lot of city council presidents. I mean, you get Ted Blunt. You had what's my buddy?
Norman Griffith,
Theo Gregory. All of these individuals did not have to suffer under the rules that Trippy had to suffer under. So for those of you who are used to seeing a city council president be able to move and operate, it was taken. His role now is to sit there and pray that something goes well. This is just not fair. We got to change it. We got to become a better people, and we will. Be persistent and don't give in. So, Coby, I call that for my show today. Anything else from you?
That's all I got.
Well, I want to say to all of you who constantly watch us, thank you so very much. We hope you enjoyed your Palm Sunday today, and we'll see you next week.
Take care, y'all.